How's it going, people? It's coming up to a day or so since we've been embarrassed in the Europa League final. I couldn't feel any worse this morning, to be honest. Actually, thinking about it, if Tottenham win Champions League Saturday and Sunday morning's a write-off, that'd be even worse. But let me not get into that because I think Liverpool will win that. We'll see what happens there. But Arsenal Football Club, you've let me down again. And before I get into Arsenal and start ripping the players again and whatnot, this video is about Unai Emery. I've seen a lot of Twitter reactions in my WhatsApp groups from friends. I've just had a friend over just now talking about Unai Emery and not blaming him as such, but insinuating that he has a big part to blame in what's happened this season. Now, in my opinion, you couldn't be further off the truth. In my opinion, Emery's the one that's first and foremost given us a full season to enjoy up until May, up until the Europa League final, up until game week 37 when we threw it away against Brighton at home. Obviously, it ends in disappointment, it ends in dejection, it ends in anger, frustration, all those words combined. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, I couldn't feel any worse this morning. To be embarrassed like that as well. Like, I've seen us embarrassed before many times. Live in the flesh, on TV, on the radio. But I've seen us embarrassed many times. But in a final in Europe, fans from all across the world paying money to go see that. That's exactly what it was, that. Because it's barely a performance. It's barely a performance we put out there. But let me get back to it. Unai Emery, like I said, people getting onto him a bit too much, in my opinion. This is how I see it. How can you get onto the man when the tools he's had to work with so far haven't been sufficient to warrant an improvement that you're asking for? To warrant guaranteed top four, or not guaranteed, but to warrant a real, let's say top four challenge, get in there and win the Europa League, we needed a lot more than 60 million in the summer to spend. I'm not going to lie to you. I know we was one game off in the Europa League. I know we done very well against Napoli home and away. And this is all in hindsight. But in my opinion, we need to spend money to improve the squad. And most of the time, it's not about quality. Like, a lot of the players are not of sufficient quality for Arsenal Football Club, but it's the mentality of these players. It's the mentality. What do you want Unai Emery to do with that? I can only listen. When I face debates and whatnot, I try and put myself in both shoes to assess the argument fairly and give a accurate response to who's asking me what or to who's saying what. And with Unai Emery, I see it. Put yourself in his shoes. He's taken on the job. 60 mil to spend. We've just finished outside the top four 2 seasons in a row. And we've signed down Mesut Ozil to 350k a week. Yeah? And you can obviously see Ozil doesn't really fit in with Emery's plans. So he's taken on a star man that doesn't fit into his plans. So already from the beginning, it's a tough ask. But he's taken the challenge on. Not many top managers would. And I'm not saying he is a top manager, because there are other names I would have preferred instead. But they wouldn't have taken the transfer budget of 60 mil. I'm going to be honest with you. So he's got 60 mil to work with. Torreira, Guendouzi, Socrates, Leno, and Lichtsteiner on a free. And Lichtsteiner was there to really back up Bellerin. Didn't work out. It was there to improve Bellerin, or improve maybe the mentality of the squad. But obviously that didn't fucking work out in the end either, because we crumbled as usual. So the mentality of the squad changing, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than a year, and a hell of a lot more than 2-3 transfer windows to fix, because there's a lot of players tainted with that mentality right now. And it stems from the Wenger regime, Wenger Gazidis. It stems from them running the club. Do you know what I mean? When you look at Emery, okay, so he spent the 60 mil. Like I mentioned, the names he's brought in, at times this season, they've shown their potential. Leno, Torreira, Guendouzi, at times this season, they've all showed their potential, and at times we've doubted them. but they've all increased in value. They are all young. They're all assets to the club now. Emery was coming into a club with very little assets, a small transfer budget and little assets to work with. So with the 60 mil, without liking Ozil, without being able to move Ozil on, his hands were tied. Hands were tied. What could he do? Socrates came in, more experience, and I'd like to say he added more solidity at the back, but in the end, it's all unravelled again. So, as much as there was periods this season where we were better defensively, in the end, that all unravelled too. There's a lot more work to be done. But I knew this. I'm not sure many of us did. I'm not sure these people that are questioning Unai Emery knows the job on hand. Not even the job on hand last summer. It's still the job on hand. It's going to take 2-3 years in total. And I'm not even saying Unai Emery is the right man for the job. I'm not saying he's the right man, but you have to give him 2 years at least and sufficient funds to try and turn it around. This is not new. This is not the first season we've finished outside the top 4. It's not even the second season we finished outside the top 4. It's the third now. So we are a Europa League club right now. And at the end of the day, we should win that next season. Obviously, it all depends on who falls out the Champions League, but I'm looking to win that next season. And that's the pressure I'm going to put on Emery next season. This season, it was all about new manager, new change after 22 years of no tactical nous, no tactics whatsoever near the end. And players have highlighted this. Players from 5 years ago, players from 10 years ago, players from 15 years ago. They've all highlighted that Wenger was never a tactician. He just wanted you to enjoy the game. And it worked for a period, and then it's put us where we are now for the next period. So that's just the summer. That's just the summer. That's the start of the season comes, and he's got Man City then Chelsea. Obviously, we lose those 2 games. Man City was pretty comfortable for them. We were trying to play a high pressing game. Same with Chelsea, high press. We did look at shambles at points, but against Chelsea, we showed a fight back. We were 2-0 down, came back to 2-2, and I think we should have won that game, but it's all ifs and buts now. We lost. And moving on, we went on about what was it, 21-22 game unbeaten streak in all competitions, which gave fans hope. Obviously going unbeaten gave fans hope. It wasn't the best unbeaten run you'll find, but it gave fans hope, and it raised expectations. But you got to understand Unai Emery did that. Like I said, in the first couple of games, first 3, 4, 5 games, we played a high press, but we looked at the shambles. Czech playing at the back, it wasn't working. And Emery changed it up. Now, people can say he threw his tactics out the window, but maybe he had to change it up. It could have been a long season ahead had he continued. He could be out of a job right now had he had continued. People are calling for his head for nearly getting top 4 and, well, getting embarrassed in the Europa League final, but getting there. Imagine if we didn't fight for top 4 this season. Even though I didn't actually expect to get Champions League football. Like, you can go back to the top 6 show, the first one. I said Europa League is our best avenue, but it's going to be very difficult because it depends on the other teams in the Champions League and obviously Chelsea. And in the end, Chelsea prevailed. So it is what it is. But yeah, we move on. Like I said, the 22-game unbeaten streak raised expectations, came up to some big games, and that was the question regarding the unbeaten streak. We didn't have the big games, and I don't know what order they were in, but we beat Tottenham 4-2, probably the best game of the season for me. Exciting, had everything, red cards, issues with players, fans, excitement, goals, tactics. It was a great game. And don't forget that Emery tweaked it up at half time after going 2-1 behind to change that game completely. And that's what he changed to. He changed to tweaking it up game to game, analysing the opponents and seeing what works best in his opinion. And sometimes he's going to get that wrong. And unlucky for him, and as frustrating as it is for us, that happened to be at the end of the season where it started going wrong for him. Like that Crystal Palace game, I'll blame him for that. He took it too lightly. I think he prioritised the Europa League, and we paid for it. We paid for it. When you look back now, we lost out on top 4 by a point. We lost out on top 3 by a few points. We could have This could be a whole nother video. This could be a whole nother story. I could have a wide smile on my face, but it is what it is. Like I said, I can blame Emery for the Palace game, but you can blame Aubameyang for the Tottenham game, or Aubameyang for a couple other games with the misses, or Xhaka for a few games, or Ozil for a few games, or Mustafi for a few games, Maitland-Niles, like Kolasinac. We've had Koscielny. We've had enough players to blame for a few games, not to be pointing the finger at Emery right now. Like, I know people question his team selection sometimes. I know people question his tactics sometimes, but it worked up until a certain point. And then, at that certain point, it became about mentality too. And that's when we crumbled. You can't expect... like I said, put yourself in his shoes. Imagine going into a club that's just been run by the same man for 22 years, and he's embedded in the club. His culture is embedded in the club, and that culture is laid back. It's, yeah, relax, work, it's a business. The guy's talking about he wanted to open a university here. I'm so glad he's gone. But imagine coming into that business or football club, however you want to look at it, to manage 25 men and try to change the mentality of, let's say, 15 to 20 of those 25. That's a difficult job. That's a difficult job. And that's besides the football. That's just the mentality. That's just the crucial time of the season where it's like, understand what we're about to do or what we can do and do it. But again, we crumbled. Again, we crumbled. We left it a bit late to crumble this time. Usually we crumble a lot earlier, but we crumbled. So it is a bit of the same old. You get me? It is a bit of the same old. And like I said, you can blame Emery for some decisions, but in the big scheme of things, how do you expect a man to come in with 60 million, no assets to move on and possibly reinvest, restructure the squad like Liverpool did with Coutinho and Suarez? No proper backroom staff. Like, I know Raul, Sven, they was in them times, and whoever else, but that was just the first, that was the first era of it, the beginning of it all. So it was just the start. So he didn't really have a sufficient backroom team to get him the, maybe like Tottenham did, the Dele Allis or the Christian Eriksens. Instead, we have got assets through Torreira, Guendouzi, Leno. The assets value has gone up, doubled, tripled, whatever it has, it's gone up. So he's done that at the very least with the 60 million budget we had. If you look at them players' value now, you'd probably say, if Alisson and Kepa and them lot are going for 70 mils, then I'd say Leno's at least 50. At least 50. So, okay, that's cool, 50 mil. Then you got Torreira. He came in for 27 in total. What's he now? About 50 mil as well, let's say. 100 mil. Then you got Guendouzi, he came in for 8 mil. What's he now? There was an article about him recently. He's like one of the most valuable teenagers in world football right now. He's probably worth about 40 mil. That's 140 mil. That's assets. So at least in the future, not to say we have to move them on, but if it comes to a point where things ain't working, we've got a new manager that can take over from Emery, that can possibly sell someone he doesn't like, but has got value. Ozil has no value. Clubs didn't even want him when he was on a free. Why are they going to want him when he's tied up? Clubs don't want Xhaka. Mustafi, clubs don't want them. How are you going to move them on? So he had to work with what he got. And like I said, beginning of the season, I knew it was going to be very tough first year. I knew whenever Wenger left, it was going to be a very tough transition. But beginning of the season, no Arsenal fan can tell me they expected Champions League football this season. How can you expect it after spending 60 mil? Don't you see like what that Man United, Chelsea spend that amount minimum? Don't you see that Man City, Liverpool? Don't you see their squads, Tottenham squad? Why did people think 60? Like, no one can say that. No one can say they expected Champions League football at the start of the season. So yes, Emery and the team raised expectations throughout the year. It took a hit in December with a mauling at Liverpool and a few uncomfortable results. We picked it up defensively from January, had the second best defensive record in the league from January to Crystal Palace, which is an improvement. It all crumbled again. Mentality. Changing the mentality of grown men is a difficult job in itself. Then you've got to apply tactics. You've got to apply tactics which were non-existent before you came in. Then you've got to work with a budget on top of applying tactics and on top of changing mentality that isn't anywhere near 4 of the other 5 clubs around you. The 5th club being one that's growing in potential, with assets in case they need to rebuild. I'm going to keep saying assets because we had none. Now we've got a few. I'm not saying they're amazing assets. I'm not saying it's Coutinho 140 mil, Suarez 80 mil and whatnot, or what they could get for Kane at 150 mil. Or, it's not them assets, but it could potentially get to levels like that. But at the end of the day, we need to give him a bigger budget. We need to give him a bigger budget. And like I said, he raised expectations, but you've always got to look back at your original thoughts. The season can get the best of you emotionally as well. Obviously, I've had my ups and downs as well. But I'm a realist. Like, over time, Arsenal have kind of taken the, not love out of me, but they've taken the definitely the expectancy, but they've taken something out of me where even the final yesterday, if you watch my vlog, I said my head says 2-1 Chelsea, but my heart says 3-1 Arsenal. Obviously, your head prevails most time. It prevailed here, but I wish it was 2-1 in hindsight, because 4-1 was a fucking embarrassment. But maybe it was needed to actually do something now. Maybe it was needed, because now, well, I say it's needed, but now we're in for a summer of fucking doom and gloom. Now we're in for a summer of low spending or tight spending. Like I said before, I don't agree we've got 40 mil to spend, even without Champions League. I'm going to predict we've got minimum 70 mil to spend. Minimum 70 mil. Maybe 70 to 90 mil without Europa League. Without Champions League. So I still expect some improvements. Hopefully we can move Mustafi on. Hopefully Ozil. Hopefully Mickey. Maybe Xhaka if someone wants to take him, but we're light in the middle because Ramsey's gone, so it'll be difficult to restructure the middle all in one this summer, as well as a full-back position, as well as centre-back, as well as wings. It'll be all mad. So there's things we need to do, but it's all about risk now. It's all about, do we take the risk to do it, or do we just ride the wave and see where it takes us? We need to take the risk, and if we don't, then if we don't take the risk this summer, I'm not even going to blame Emery again next season, because you can't. Put yourself in his shoes, for fuck's sake. How can you blame the man working with the tools he has? If we don't spend at least 70 to 90 mil, like I said, if we don't spend that at least, then I'm not questioning Emery. I'm sorry, I'm not questioning Emery. This is a Premier League. This is a money league. That's what it's been for the recent season, and we need to keep up. Like, we actually need to keep up, because we're falling far behind. If Newcastle get taken over, then it's a wrap for us. It's a wrap. We'll be the first ones to drop out, I'll tell you that. But yeah, like I said, this ain't directed at any individual. There's been a hell of a lot of people talking shit about Emery today and last night, so don't take it personally. But I am talking to the people that have been like questioning his position. You shouldn't even question his position. 2 years minimum with backing. We can understand now we haven't got Champions League, the money won't be as big as we thought, but I'm expecting 70 to 90 mil at least, plus player sales, which can raise to maybe 120 mil, 130 mil. We've got some rebuilding to do, and Unai Emery in his press conference after the game he insinuated moving players on, and we've got to work with the new players we brought in last summer and build on that and move forward, and he's right. That's what we've got to do right now. That's what we've got to do. It's going to be another down and out summer, like I said. We've joined United in the Europa League again, but that's what we are for now, man. Might as well fucking enjoy it for what it is. But let's get off Unai Emery's back. Let's get off his back. Like, even the Ozil situation, he's handled that well. Ozil doesn't play the football he wants him to play. He got forced into basically starting him from February or the end of January onwards, and I was backing that, because I said, listen, you got to start Ozil, because either Let him prove himself or let him hang himself. And towards the end of the season, Ozil started most games, and we didn't make top 4, and we didn't win the Europa League. He's hanged himself. He's hanged himself. So that's that. That's that argument done for me. Like, next season, please don't talk to me about Mesut Ozil. We better have a fucking better player at the club than him, man. I'm tired of it. I'm actually tired of it. People blaming Unai Emery, you know, working with what he's got. I don't even know. I could talk about each individual thing so deep. This video would be like hours long. I could talk about players for like half an hour alone and how they let him down. I could talk about the board and how they let him down. I could talk about Stan Kroenke individually and how he lets the club down. I could talk about the fan base and how we let the club down. There's so many individual factors for Emery to work with, yeah, that you've got to give him 2 years. And that's not me saying, again, I'm going to reiterate, that's not me saying he's the right man for the job, because I've always said, after Wenger went, go back to my interviews a couple of years back, after Wenger went, it'll take 2-3 years, and I believe there'll be one manager in between those years that will bring back stability, bring back a mentality, and bring back a structure before a new manager takes over, and that new manager possibly will be an Arsenal legend to maybe galvanise the fan base, bring us together again, and possibly back into Champions League. That's how I see it playing out. But there's no point in us changing them. Who are we going to change for now? People saying Allegri, are you mad? Allegri come into Europa League from Juventus and spend, what, 40, 50, 60 mil? Like last summer. Get out of here, man. Allegri wouldn't come. Simeone wouldn't come. Simeone would be the guy. Fuck good football right now. I just want to get back to winning ways. That would have been my guy last year. But it didn't happen because think people like that, we wouldn't dare go for, because the money they'd ask for. And the fact that they're very, like, they would come out against the board. I know Emery, people say, is a bit of a yes man. You could say that, but at the end of the day, someone's got to take the job. And we was being linked to some fucking stupid names last year. Henry's first job, Arteta's first job. And then Emery came out of nowhere. Enrique rejected it. And Enrique is not even levels like that. Emery came in and accepted it. Emery's won the Europa League. Yet we're blaming him for yesterday. He's won the thing 3 times. Did you see how sick he looked? Did you see how sick he looked with that medal? He looked the most sick out of everyone. You could see Emery's a winner. So I don't understand people's beef with him. I really don't understand. The players he's got are not good enough. The money he's been backed with hasn't been enough. Like, we cannot compete until those issues are sorted. And it's going to take another 1, 2, 3 windows now, because we're not back in the Champions League yet. And that's minimum, because we've got to get back into the Champions League next season now. For me now, next season, he's got to get into it. But it all depends on the summer. If we spend 60 mil again, then I'm happy with another season. Not happy, but like I'd expect another season like this one. A challenge for top 4, like maybe a brief challenge, or one of like from behind challenge, and Europa League. But if we spend properly, if we spend about 90 mil, 100 mil, replace players as well, like sell them on, replace them, then I could expect more from Emery. Then I can say he has to get top 4 now and win the Europa League, or has to get top 4 minimum. But until he gets back sufficiently, until there's consistency in the people and the board behind him, the staff behind him, in terms of Raul and Vinesh and whoever else it is, I don't care who it is, just sort it out. For fuck's sake, just sort it out. And aim your frustration at the correct places. These are the same players letting us down yearly. Same players. This is a new manager just taking us on. Now, this ain't nothing new. The crumble ain't nothing new. You can't put that down to Emery. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, because I could continue for time, man. But it's been, what, 25 minutes already, for fuck's sake. This is the most I've talked on camera, so yeah, let me know what you lot think in the comments below, man. And even if you got harsh criticism of Emery, keep it fucking legit, man. Don't just go fuck Emery and this and that and whatever else. But it took me a long time to dislike Wenger, a long time. That's what I don't get as well. Sorry, I'm going to go back into it. But that's what I don't get as well. On one hand, you've got fans, yeah, that wanted Wenger in. Okay, he's gone now, and you can see some of them are a bit sour about that. So any opportunity they have, they'll get onto Emery. But what did they actually want? Okay, because they love the fact that Wenger was so, like, well, in their opinion, in love with the club, and he was so as one with the club, 22 years. They love the fact we supported our manager and we don't change managers like that. Why now? Because he's gone. The guy that you love was gone. Should we now change managers? So you've got that side of the fans who are like that, which doesn't make sense. And then you got the other side who's like me, who wanted Wenger to move on. Yeah. Wanted him out, but now want Emery out after a year. When the people like me should know the fucking damage that was caused at this club is going to take more than a year to sort out. It's going to take more than a year. And so I don't understand. I don't understand which side of the fence you sit. I don't get it. I don't get it. But yeah, that's it, man. It's a wrap, man. Yeah, just let me know in the comments below what you think, man.